I stood there in my grandmother's vintage lace dress, surrounded by 300 guests. When my maid of honor whispered the words that would change everything, I have proof. The priest had just asked, "Who gives this woman to be married?" And instead of my father stepping forward with his rehearsed blessing, Jessica, my best friend since childhood, walked to the microphone. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady as granite. "I'm sorry," she said, her eyes meeting mine with a mixture of love and devastation. "But I can't let you marry him without knowing the truth." The church fell silent. 299 people held their breath. And Michael, my fiancé, my college sweetheart, the man I'd planned to spend forever with, went completely white. But let me back up, because this story doesn't start at the altar. It starts 3 years earlier, when I thought I'd found my fairy tale ending. Michael Harrison swept into my life like a hurricane dressed in designer suits. I was 25, working as a graphic designer at a small Seattle firm, living in a studio apartment with a view of the dumpster behind the Chinese restaurant. He was 31, a successful real estate developer with a corner office, a BMW, and the kind of confidence that made waitresses giggle. We met at a coffee shop when he knocked over my latte, reaching for sugar. Most people would have mumbled an apology and moved on. Michael bought me a new drink, sat down uninvited, and started asking about my work with genuine interest. "You designed that?" he said, looking at my laptop screen. "That's incredible. You're talented." I should have been flattered. Instead, I was suspicious. Beautiful, successful men didn't usually notice me. I was the friend who helped pretty girls get ready for dates, not the one who got asked out. I had mousy brown hair, wore glasses, and my idea of dressing up was switching from sneakers to flats. But Michael seemed different. He called when he said he would. He planned actual dates instead of just texting, "Want to hang out?" He brought me sunflowers because I'd mentioned once that they reminded me of my grandmother's garden. Jessica Rodriguez had been my best friend since we were 7. She was everything I wasn't: tall, confident, with the kind of curves that made men walk into lampposts. She could have dated anyone, but she'd rather spend Friday nights with me, eating Thai food and analyzing why rom-com leads made such terrible decisions. "He's too good to be true," she'd warned me early on. "Men like that don't just fall from the sky." Michael's family accepted me immediately, which should have been my first red flag. His mother, Patricia Harrison, was the kind of woman who wore pearls to grocery shop. His father, Richard, was a retired judge who still commanded respect in every room. They lived in a sprawling colonial in Bellevue, with a garden that looked like it belonged in a magazine. "Emma's lovely," Patricia told Michael at our first family dinner, loud enough for me to hear. "She's so grounded. Normal." After that mess with Samantha, normal is exactly what you need. Samantha was Michael's ex-fiancée, a topic that was mentioned exactly once and then never again. All I knew was that she'd been inappropriate and attention-seeking, and that the breakup had been for the best. "She wasn't the person I thought she was," Michael said one night. "She was always performing, always needing to be the center of attention. I thought what we had was real, but she was just using me." I'd stroked his hair and promised him that I wasn't going anywhere, that what he saw was exactly who I was. And I meant it. I loved him completely, desperately, in the way that only happens when you're young and believe in forever. Michael proposed exactly 18 months after we started dating. He'd taken me to the same coffee shop where we'd met, and when the barista called out my name, she handed me a cup with "Will you marry me?" written in Sharpie. When I turned around, he was on one knee with a ring that was exactly what I would have chosen. A simple solitaire, elegant and timeless. The engagement period was a blur of planning and dress shopping. Patricia took over most of the details, which was fine by me. I was drowning in work and grateful for the help. She had opinions about everything. The flowers, peonies, not roses. The venue, the historic church downtown. The guest list, 300 people, most of whom I didn't know. "It's important to do things properly," she'd say whenever I questioned a decision. "The Harrison name means something in this city." Michael backed her up on everything. "Mom's planned a dozen weddings for charity events. She knows what she's doing." I went along with it because I loved him, because I wanted to fit into his world, because I thought that was what love meant. Compromise, sacrifice, putting someone else's needs first. Jessica watched it all with increasingly worried eyes. "You're disappearing," she said one night, 6 months before the wedding. "When's the last time you made a decision about your own wedding?" "I chose the dress," I said defensively. "Patricia chose the dress. You just didn't fight her on it." "But I loved him. And he loved me. That was what mattered, right?" The week before the wedding, I moved in with Michael. His downtown loft was everything my studio apartment wasn't: spacious, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. "Make yourself at home," he said, showing me where I could hang my clothes. "What's mine is yours now." It should have felt romantic. Instead, it felt like I was a guest in a hotel, afraid to disturb anything. My few belongings looked shabby against his expensive furniture. Even my coffee mug, a chipped ceramic thing from college, looked wrong in his pristine kitchen. "We'll get you new things after the honeymoon," he said, noticing my hesitation. "We'll redecorate, make it ours." But it didn't feel like ours. It felt like his, and I was just borrowing space. The morning of the wedding dawned gray and drizzly. I woke up at Michael's loft at 6 a.m., my stomach churning with what I told myself were normal wedding day nerves. "Good morning, Mrs. Harrison-to-be," Michael said, bringing me coffee in bed. He was already dressed in workout clothes, hair perfectly styled. "I'm going to hit the gym, then head to the church early. You'll be beautiful today." After he left, I sat in his pristine kitchen, drinking coffee from my shabby mug, and trying to remember the last time I'd felt genuinely excited about anything wedding-related. The bridal suite at the church was a flurry of activity. Patricia had hired professional hair and makeup artists, and the room was full of bridesmaids and various female relatives, all getting primped. I sat in the center of it all like a doll being dressed, smiling on cue while people adjusted my veil. "You look perfect," Patricia said, stepping back to admire the final result. Like a Harrison bride should look. I stared at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back was beautiful, polished, proper. She looked like she belonged in this world of country clubs and charity galas. She didn't look like me. "Emma." Jessica appeared behind me in the mirror, stunning in her navy blue maid of honor dress. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" "Alone?" Patricia frowned. "We're running on a tight schedule." "It'll just take a second," Jessica said firmly. Wedding tradition. Private moment between the bride and her maid of honor. She led me to a small alcove off the main room. Her face was pale, and she kept fidgeting with her bouquet. "Jess, what's wrong? You look like you're going to be sick." "I might be." "Emma, I need to tell you something. Last month, when I was at that conference in Portland, I saw Michael." My heart stopped. "What do you mean you saw him?" "He was supposed to be in Vancouver on business, remember? I saw him at a restaurant downtown. With a woman." The world tilted sideways. "What kind of woman?" "A blonde. Tall, glamorous. They were intimate. Holding hands, kissing. I followed them back to the hotel. They went up together. I felt like I was drowning." "Are you sure it was him?" "I'm sure. I hired a private investigator. Her name is Samantha Walsh. Ring any bells?" The name hit me like a physical blow. Samantha. His ex-fiancée. "She's not his ex," Jessica continued. "She's his girlfriend. Has been for 3 years. The whole time he's been with you." I couldn't breathe. "That's impossible. He proposed to me. He proposed to her first. 2 years ago. They're engaged, Emma. She's been planning a wedding for next spring." Jessica pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The photos were devastating. Michael at a jewelry store with a tall blonde. Michael kissing her outside a restaurant. Michael in a hotel room, the woman's head on his chest. "There's more," Jessica whispered. "The PI found out why he's marrying you. His trust fund. He gets full access when he marries someone his parents approve of." "How do you know that?" "Text messages. He calls you the placeholder. Says you're perfect because you're so grateful you'll never question anything. Says the sex is boring, but you'll be a good mother." I thought I was going to throw up. He said that. "Emma, he doesn't love you. He loves her. You're just convenient." Patricia appeared in the doorway. "Time's up." The photographer is getting impatient. I looked at Jessica, then at Patricia, then at my reflection in the small mirror. The beautiful, perfect bride staring back at me was a lie. Everything was a lie. I need a minute, I said. You don't have a minute, Patricia said. You have a church full of people waiting. You have a groom who's been nothing but wonderful to you. I need to think. You need to get married. Cold feet are normal, dear. Every bride has them. Jessica stepped forward. She's not nervous. She's fine. Patricia cut her off. Aren't you, Emma? I looked at the photos on Jessica's phone one more time. Michael with another woman. Michael calling me boring. Michael marrying me for money. Yes, I said quietly. I'm going to marry your son. Jessica looked like I'd slapped her. Emma. I'm going to marry him, I repeated. But first, I need you to do something for me, Jess. I need you to help me with one last wedding detail. The next 30 minutes were a blur of final preparations, but my mind was crystal clear for the first time in months. While the photographer arranged group shots, I pulled Jessica aside one more time. I need you to trust me, I said, and I need you to be brave. What are you going to do? I'm going to give everyone exactly what they came to see. A wedding they'll never forget. Emma, you can't. Can't what? Marry a man who's been lying to me for 3 years? Can't let him make a fool of me in front of 300 people. I handed her my phone. I need you to make a video compilation. The photos, the text messages, something that tells the whole story. Jessica nodded slowly. How long do I have? 20 minutes. Can you do it? I can try. But Emma, think about this. Once you do this, there's no going back. What life? The life where I disappear into someone else's idea of who I should be? The life where I'm grateful for scraps of attention from a man who calls me boring? The lineup for the processional was a production worthy of Broadway. I stood at the back of the line, watching it all with strange detachment. You ready for this? Asked my father, appearing at my elbow in his rented tuxedo. My little girl getting married. Dad had never liked Michael much, but he'd kept his opinions to himself. If he makes you happy, that's all that matters, he'd say. But I could see the doubt in his eyes. Dad, I said suddenly, do you think I'm making a mistake? He paused, really looking at me for the first time all day. Why would you ask that? I want to make sure I'm doing this for the right reasons. Sweetheart, only you can answer that. But I'll tell you what I told your mother before we got married. If you have to ask, maybe that's your answer. The church doors opened and the wedding march began. One by one, the wedding party walked down the aisle. Jessica was the last to go before me. She squeezed my hand as she passed. I love you, she whispered. Whatever happens, remember that. I love you too. And Jessica, thank you for everything. We began our walk down the aisle, and I felt the eyes of 300 people on me. There was Michael at the altar, devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo, his smile bright and confident. There was Patricia in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. The walk felt like it took forever and no time at all. Dad kissed my cheek and placed my hand in Michael's. The priest began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Michael Harrison and Emma Claire Bennett. I barely heard the words. I was studying Michael's face, looking for signs of the man Jessica had described. He looked the same as always. Handsome, confident, in control. If he was nervous about anything, he didn't show it. We exchanged vows, generic, safe words that Patricia had approved. Michael's were particularly polished, delivered with the kind of sincerity that made several guests reach for their tissues. Emma, he said, looking deep into my eyes, you are my heart, my soul, my everything. You've made me a better man, and I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you for all the days of my life. The words were beautiful. They were also, I now knew, complete lies. We exchanged rings. Michael slipped the wedding band onto my finger with steady hands. My turn. I took his ring and looked at it for a long moment. It was platinum, engraved with our wedding date and the words, forever yours. Emma. Michael prompted softly. I slipped the ring onto his finger. Forever yours, I repeated. The priest smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Michael, you may kiss your bride. Michael leaned in for the kiss, and I thought about stopping him. But I let him kiss me, let the crowd cheer, let the photographer capture the moment. because in about 30 seconds, everything was going to change. The priest raised his hands for quiet. Before we conclude, the maid of honor has asked to say a few words. This wasn't part of the original plan. Patricia looked confused, then alarmed. Michael's head snapped toward Jessica, who was walking calmly to the microphone. "Jessica, what are you doing?" he hissed. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the church's sound system. "But I can't let this ceremony end without everyone knowing the truth." The church fell silent. "Michael," she continued, looking directly at him, "you've been having an affair with Samantha Walsh for 3 years. The same 3 years you've been dating Emma." Gasps rose from the crowd. Michael's face went white, then red. "What the hell are you talking about? You're engaged to her. She's planning your real wedding for next spring. You call Emma the placeholder in your text messages. You're only marrying her to access your trust fund." "This is insane," Michael said, but his voice cracked. "Emma, you can't believe this." I looked at him, this man I thought I loved, this man who'd been lying to me since the day we met. "Show them," I said to Jessica. Jessica pulled out her phone. "I have photos, text messages, hotel receipts, everything." Patricia stood up in the front row. "This is outrageous. I won't have my son's wedding ruined by some jealous." "Your son ruined it himself," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "The question is, do you want to see the evidence here? Or should we take this somewhere private?" Michael grabbed my arm. "Emma, let's go somewhere and talk about this. There's been a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding was mine," I said, pulling away from him. "Thinking you actually loved me." Jessica had connected her phone to the church's AV system. The screen behind the altar, the same screen that had been displaying romantic quotes during the ceremony, now showed a very different picture. Michael and Samantha at dinner, holding hands across the table. Michael and Samantha shopping for rings. Michael and Samantha in bed together, dates stamped from the previous week. The church erupted. People were shouting, crying, demanding explanations. Some guests were taking pictures with their phones. "Turn it off," Patricia screamed. "Turn it off right now." But Jessica had more. Screenshots of text messages appeared on the screen. Michael to Samantha, "The wedding is just business. You're the one I love." Michael to Samantha, "She's so grateful for everything. She'll never question anything." Perfect wife material. And then the final blow. A photo of Michael and Samantha from the previous month at what looked like an engagement party. She was wearing a ring that dwarfed mine, and they were kissing while holding up a save the date card. The same date as our planned 1-year anniversary. Michael lunged for the AV equipment, but his groomsmen held him back. "Emma, please," he said, his voice breaking. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" I asked. "That you've been lying to me for 3 years? That you call me boring? That you're marrying me for money?" "It's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like." I turned to face the crowd. 300 people stared back at me, their faces a mixture of shock, horror, and fascination. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the church. "I'm sorry you all came here expecting to see a wedding. But I'm not sorry for the truth." The silence was deafening. Then someone started clapping. My college roommate. Then my cousin Sarah. Then more people until half the church was applauding. "Did you really think I'd never find out?" I asked Michael. "Emma, please, can we talk about this privately? These people deserve to know why there isn't going to be a happily ever after." Patricia stood up again. "This is a disgrace. You're embarrassing the entire family." "Your son embarrassed himself," I said. "I'm just making sure everyone knows about it." The church doors burst open, and a tall blonde woman in a designer dress ran down the aisle. "Samantha Walsh, Michael's real fiancée." "Michael," she called out. "I saw the posts online. What's happening?" The entire church turned to stare at her. She stopped halfway down the aisle, taking in the scene. Michael in his tuxedo, me in my wedding dress, the photos of her and Michael still displayed on the screen. "Oh," she said, her face going pale. "Oh no, Samantha." Michael's voice was barely a whisper. "You said you were going to call it off," she said, her voice carrying in the shocked silence. "You said you were going to tell her the truth before the wedding." "I was going to." You were going to what? I asked. Call off the wedding? When? After you got the trust fund money. Samantha looked at me for the first time. You're Emma. I'm Emma. You're the woman my husband has been cheating on me with for 3 years. We're not, she looked at Michael helplessly. You said you were going to divorce her right after the wedding. You said it was just paperwork. You were planning 2 weddings, I said, finally understanding. You were going to marry me, get the trust fund, then divorce me and marry her. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, Michael said desperately. I lived in your shadow for 3 years. I let you turn me into someone I didn't recognize. But this isn't love. This is ownership. I pulled off my wedding ring and engagement ring, walking to the altar and placing them on the podium. Consider this my wedding gift to you. Emma, wait. I'm done waiting. I'm done being grateful. I'm done being perfect. I turned to face the crowd one more time. Thank you all for coming. I know this wasn't the wedding you expected, but it's the truth you deserved. I started walking back down the aisle, still in my wedding dress, still carrying my bouquet. People were standing up, some applauding, others crying, others just staring in shock. Emma, Michael called after me. You can't just leave. Oh, and Michael? I called back. I'm keeping the apartment. My name's on the lease too. You'll need to find somewhere else to live. With that, I walked out of the church, my heels clicking on the marble floor, my wedding dress trailing behind me like a victory banner. The reception hall was already set up when I arrived, accompanied by Jessica and about 50 of my closest friends and family who had followed me from the church. The vendors were confused. They'd been expecting a celebration, not a post-wedding disaster support group. Cancel the formal reception, I told the coordinator, but set up the bar for my friends. We're celebrating my freedom. Within 20 minutes, we had an impromptu party going. My college friends were taking selfies with me. My cousins were making toasts, and Jessica was showing anyone who asked the evidence that had brought down Michael Harrison. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. The hashtag Emma Exposes All was already trending locally. Videos from the church were being shared across every platform. Emma, my mom appeared at my elbow. Honey, are you okay? Really okay? I'm perfect, Mom. For the first time in 3 years, I'm perfect. I never liked him, she said quietly. Something about him always felt performed. Why didn't you say anything? Because you seemed happy, and I thought maybe I was just being overprotective. She hugged me tight. I'm so proud of you. We were interrupted by a commotion at the entrance. Michael had arrived, no longer in his tuxedo but in jeans and a t-shirt, looking haggard and desperate. Emma, we need to talk. The party went quiet. My friends formed a protective circle around me, but I stepped forward. There's nothing to talk about, Michael. You humiliated me in front of everyone I know. My career is over. My family has disowned me. Samantha won't even talk to me. Good. Now you know how it feels. I made mistakes, okay? But destroying my life isn't going to make you feel better. You're right. Destroying your life won't make me feel better. But telling the truth? That feels amazing. Can we go somewhere private and talk about this like adults? We tried that for 3 years. You lied the entire time. Security had caught up with him. 2 large men in suits flanked him, waiting for my signal. As security escorted him out, he turned back one more time. This isn't over, Emma. I'll sue you for defamation. Please do. Make sure you include the photos of you and Samantha in your lawsuit. After he left, the party resumed with even more energy. People were genuinely celebrating now. I felt lighter than I had in years. The next few days were a whirlwind. The story went viral nationally. My phone rang constantly with interview requests and book deal offers. Patricia called twice to inform me that I was a disgraceful girl who had ruined a good man's life. I hung up on her both times. The private investigator Jessica had hired called on Wednesday. Michael Harrison isn't his real name. He's been running cons like this for years. You're the 3rd woman he's tried to marry for money. What? His real name is Marcus Henderson. He's wanted for fraud in 2 other states. The FBI is very interested in talking to him. I sat down hard. It was even worse than I'd thought. I hadn't just been cheated on. I'd been targeted by a professional con artist. Samantha called me on Thursday. I didn't know, she said. her voice small and shaky. About the other women, about the cons. I thought you were a business arrangement. He told me his family was forcing him to marry you, but that he loved me. We were both marks, weren't we? I guess we were. Emma, I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. How did you find the courage to do what you did? I realized that the truth was the only thing I had left that was really mine, I said. And I wasn't going to let him take that too. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new office, looking out at Elliott Bay, when my assistant announced a visitor. A reporter from Seattle Magazine wanted to do a follow-up story. I'd started my own graphic design company 3 months after the wedding disaster. The viral fame had been a double-edged sword, but I'd attracted the right clients. Small businesses, nonprofits, women entrepreneurs who appreciated working with someone who understood authentic storytelling. What have you learned? The reporter asked. I learned that the worst thing that can happen to you might also be the best thing, I said. Being humiliated in front of 300 people was devastating, but it was also liberating. I stopped caring what other people thought, and I started caring what I thought. Do you regret how you handled it? I regret the 3 years I spent living a lie. I regret not trusting my instincts, but I don't regret telling the truth. What would you say to other women in similar situations? Trust yourself. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If you're changing fundamental parts of yourself to keep someone happy, you're not in love. You're in danger. After the interview, I walked to the coffee shop where Michael and I had first met. I'd avoided it for months, but today felt right to reclaim it. The barista, a young woman with purple hair, brought my drink over personally. Are you Emma Bennett? I braced myself. Yes, I am. I just wanted to say thank you. My boyfriend was cheating on me, and I was going to take him back. But after I saw what you did, I realized I deserved better. I broke up with him instead. How are you doing now? Amazing. I'm in school. I have this job I love, and I'm dating someone who actually respects me. I never would have had the courage if I hadn't seen you refuse to settle. I'd received hundreds of messages like that. Women who'd left bad relationships, quit toxic jobs, or simply started speaking up for themselves. They called me brave, but I knew the truth. I wasn't brave until I had no choice left. Later that evening, I met Jessica for dinner at our favorite Thai place. She was glowing with excitement. I'm moving to Portland, she announced. Senior partner at a law firm specializing in women's rights cases. That's amazing. I was scared to tell you. I didn't want you to think I was abandoning you. Jess, you saved my life. You don't owe me anything. What about dating? Are you ready for that? I laughed. I'm ready for a lot of things. I'm ready to travel. I booked a trip to Italy next month. I'm ready to take risks. I'm thinking about writing a book. I'm ready to be alone without feeling lonely. As for dating, when the right person comes along, I'll know, because I finally know who I am. As we hugged goodbye, Jessica said something that stuck with me. You know what I love most about you now? What? You take up space. You have opinions. You make decisions. You're not trying to be perfect for anyone else. Driving home, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago. The woman who'd worn a dress chosen by someone else, who'd walked toward a man who didn't love her, who'd been so grateful for attention that she'd accepted lies as love. That woman was gone. In her place was someone who'd learned that being alone was better than being with someone who made you feel alone. Someone who'd discovered that public humiliation was survivable. More than survivable. Transformative. I pulled into my parking spot and looked up at my apartment building. My home. My space. My life. For the first time in years, I couldn't wait to see what happened next.